Hey there, folks, picture this. I'm standing on a dirt road I poured my heart into building, staring down the barrel of a rifle, a guy in tactical gear barking at me to stop or he'll shoot. The morning air is so crisp it stings, and that Montana sunrise is glinting off his gun like it's mocking me. I'm Jack Thornton, and this road, this winding, hard-won path up Pine Hollow Ridge's mine, every inch of it designed by my own hand. But now I'm being told I can't set foot on it. You ever feel like the ground you built your dreams on is being ripped out from under you? That's where this story starts, and trust me, it's a wild ride from there. I'm a retired engineer, spent 30 years designing skyscrapers and bridges in Seattle, projects that paid for my kids' college, and a nice house for my wife, Laura. But after watching my dad work himself into an early grave, never taking a day to just breathe, I swore I wouldn't end up like that. At 47, I cashed out, bought 40 acres of rugged land above Crystal Lake, Montana, place my dad used to take me camping when I was a kid, where we'd sit by the fire and talk about building a cabin someday. That dream never happened for him, but I was determined to make it real for me, for Laura, for our son Ethan, and maybe one day for grandkids I could teach to fish in that lake. This wasn't just land, it was a promise I made to myself to live better, to leave something behind that mattered. Building a road up that mountain was no small feat. The slope was brutal, the kind of terrain that'd make most engineers laugh and walk away. Took me 16 months, mapping every rock, every tree, calculating drainage for those killer Montana blizzards that'll bury you in 10 feet of snow. I sank $300,000 into it, hired local guys who knew the land, and put in 12 culverts, 8 retaining walls, and a grade that never went over 7%. I didn't just build a road, I built a lifeline to that cabin site, with a view of the lake so clear it'd stop your heart. And because I've seen projects go sideways in earthquake zones, I added fail-safes, remote drainage systems, pressure points to block the road if needed, sensors to track anything that moved. Call it paranoia, but I don't build without a plan B. Everything was golden until Diane Harper showed up. She rolled into Crystal Lake last spring, 50-something, all polished smiles and city polish, like she'd stepped out of a corporate boardroom. Within weeks, she'd charmed her way into running the HOA, talking big about protecting our pristine wilderness and community safety. I didn't pay much attention, HOA stuff's not my thing, and I was busy planning Ethan's first visit to the cabin. But at Diane's first meeting, she came for me hard. Stood up with a slick PowerPoint, pointing at my road, saying it was tearing up wildlife habitats, causing erosion, endangering the whole ecosystem. She had charts, photos of disturbed dirt, even quotes from neighbors I barely knew, claiming my road was ruining their peace. Her fix? Put my road under HOA control, limit access, all in the name of environmental stewardship. I stood up, showed them my permits, my erosion studies, the wildlife corridors I'd mapped out, data that proved my road was cleaner than the untouched slope. Diane just smiled, that tight, fake smile, and said, "Jack, we all want what's best for the community, but sometimes one person's project can harm the greater good. I'm sure you'll see reason." I should have seen the red flags, but I figured she was just another busybody with too much time. Then, 2 weeks later, I woke up to a steel gate across my road, topped with razor wire, like something out of a war zone. 4 armed guards stood there, led by a guy named Mike Vance, ex-military, all calm and professional, but his hand never strayed far from his radio. "Mr. Thornton," he said, cool as ice, "this area is restricted for environmental assessment. You'll need to use the public road." My road, me property, suddenly a no-go zone. I walked away, fuming, but something felt off. This wasn't just HOA nonsense. The setup was too clean, too expensive, too planned. I started digging. Public records showed Diane had scooped up 3 cheap plots around the lake right before her HOA takeover, bought from old folks who suddenly wanted to downsize. One of them, Mrs. Larson, sounded shaky when I called, muttering about Diane hinting at property value risks if certain projects like my road kept going. Then I noticed the drones. Every morning at 6 a.m., one would buzz over my road, camera glaring, flying a grid pattern for 2 hours, then back at night. I spotted orange paint marks on trees, not random, but numbered, like someone was mapping the whole damn forest. And at night, deep in the woods, I heard machines, not chainsaws, but heavy, industrial grinding, starting at 11 p.m., stopping before dawn. This wasn't conservation. This was something else. Diane's campaign got nastier. Flyers went up around town, my road photoshopped to look like a mudslide, with headlines calling me an environmental menace. Neighbors I'd shared beers with started crossing the street to avoid me. Then came the letter HOA letterhead, signed by a dozen folks I barely knew, demanding I respect the community's will and stop fighting their conservation efforts. It was polished, legal-sounding, like it was written by someone who knew how to twist a knife. I wasn't just up against Diane. This was a machine, and I was in its crosshairs. I set up my own surveillance, using cameras I'd bought to document the road build high-def, motion-triggered, linked to a secure cloud. Hiding them in the forest took me back to my engineering days, rigging systems in places nobody'd think to look. What I saw made my blood run cold. No scientists, no clipboards, just crews marking ancient ponderosa pines, some over 200 years old, protected by federal law. They worked like pros, measuring, numbering, cutting trees to precise lengths for export. This wasn't a small-time scam. This was big money, and my road was their highway to haul it out. Things got personal when I got a call at 3 a.m., voice scrambled, cold as steel. "Jack, we know Laura's yoga class is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Ethan's got soccer practice Thursdays at the community center. They're alone in Seattle, and you're out here playing hero. Leave Montana in 48 hours, or we'll show you how serious we are." The next morning, an envelope slid under my door, photos of Laura at the grocery store, Ethan at school, shot from a distance, with a note. 47 hours left. My stomach dropped. This wasn't about my road anymore. They were coming for my family. I called my old buddy, Sam Carter, a private investigator who'd vetted contractors for me back in Seattle. "Sam, I need everything you can get on Diane Harper, and I need it yesterday." His report hit like a freight train. Diane Harper didn't exist. Her real name was Diane Walsh, a career con artist with a rap sheet across 5 states: timber theft, fraud, shell companies, always hiding behind green causes. She was tied to a guy named Victor Kane, an international player Interpol had been chasing for years, running illegal logging ops across North America. My little mountain was their biggest score, yet $150 million in old-growth timber, and my road was the key to getting it out fast. I was ready to pack up, get Laura and Ethan to her sisters in Vancouver, but then Mike Vance, the head guard, reached out. Encrypted message, straight to the point. "Jack, meet me at the old fire tower, noon tomorrow." I didn't sign up for this. They're crossing lines I won't cross. I didn't trust him, but I went, heart pounding, half expecting an ambush. Mike showed up alone, looking like a guy who hadn't slept in weeks. "I thought this was just security for some logging gig," he said, voice low. "But they're talking about taking out witnesses starting with you. Tonight's their big move. 3 trucks, $3 million in timber, rolling down your road at 11 p.m. Diane's running the show herself." That's when it hit me. My road wasn't just their tool, it was my weapon. I'd built in a kill switch, a drainage system at mile marker 1.9, designed to handle flash floods. Trigger it right, and it'd turn the road into a sinkhole, deep enough to trap anything, but shallow enough to avoid hurting anyone. I called my lawyer, Rachel Evans, who'd navigated permits for me before. She had a contact, FBI agent Lisa Grant, who'd been after Diane's network for years. "Jack," Rachel said, "if you can pin them down tonight, Lisa's team can move in. But you gotta make it airtight." At 10:45 p.m., I sat in my cabin, staring at my control panel, cameras showing the convoy creeping down the mountain, 3 trucks groaning under the weight of stolen pines, Diane in the lead SUV, smug as ever. I hit the switch. The ground at 1.9 gave way, swallowing the convoy in a muddy trap, tires spinning uselessly. Diane's scream over the radio was pure cinema. "What the hell is this, Thornton?" I didn't answer. I was too busy uploading my camera feeds to Lisa's team, GPS pinging the exact spot. 30 minutes later, FBI choppers lit up the night, agents swarming the trucks. They found manifests, emails to Victor Kane, even guns stashed in the timber enough to bury Diane's whole operation. Turns out, Mike wasn't just a guard. He was FBI, undercover, feeding intel for months, but never getting the hard evidence until I handed it over. Diane, real name Walsh, got 30 years for racketeering, timber theft, and weapons charges. Victor Kane was nabbed in Canada, facing life. The Fed seized $100 million in assets, funneling it into restoring the forests Diane's crew had gutted. Crystal Lake's now a protected wilderness. My road turned into trails for hikers and researchers. Laura and Ethan came back, prouder than I've ever seen them, and our cabin's now a hub for conservation workshops. Ethan's even talking about studying environmental law, says he wants to fight the bad guys like Dad did. Looking back, I built that road to keep a promise to my dad, but it became a fight for something bigger: me family, my land, and a forest that'll outlive us all. Sometimes you don't pick the fight, it picks you, and you've got to decide if you'll stand or run. So, what would you do if someone tried to take what's yours: your home, your work, your legacy? Drop a comment, let me know your story, and if you want more tales of regular folks taking on the big dogs, hit that subscribe button. Who knows, maybe your HOA's watching through binoculars. Or maybe they're not. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.